Good morning. We are back at Black Cherry, and today we're looking at sweet stuff. So we're looking at all of the jams and the preserves. So I kind of wanted to talk about them because they're a little bit different than the jams and preserves that we have here. So I'm a big jam maker. I've been making jam, and I love being in Utah because we have so many different kinds of fruits that you don't get on the East Coast. Oh my goodness, this is hot. I gotta take this off. And so I kind of know how to do jams both ways. So I kind of wanted to explain the difference. And pretty much American jams and European jams are more thicker. So they use more pectin. They'll either use more lemon juice because it's a spreadable jam. So it sits on your bread. Whereas the Mediterranean jams are more of a preserve, and what it's preserved in is a little bit more viscous. It's more of a syrup. So it doesn't, you have the whole fruit. They're not usually chopped up. It's whole fruit and kind of a preserve. And kind of what they do is instead of chopping it up and just boiling it up like we would do a natural jam here, they kind of put their sugar on it and they squeeze a little lemon and they extract all of the juices out. So that's where the syrupy nature comes from, is from the fruit sitting in the sugar either overnight or in the sun or something like that. So one of the most popular jams, there's actually two popular jams over in Turkey. There's sour cherry jam and rose petal jam. So we've got sour cherry and we have rose petal. Now we are lucky in Utah to have lots of sour cherries like available, which makes it really easy if you want to make your own sour cherry jam here, because we have the climate for sour cherries. And but I don't know if you can see. Can you see in there that it's a little bit more viscous and it kind of moves around? I don't know if you can see that. I guess you can see it a little bit. And the rose petals. Now, you might think that you can just go out and just pick roses and make some jam and you're all happy, but that's kind of not the case. From what I've been reading, there's a certain kind of rose that's in the Mediterranean region that I think it's from Damascus is kind of where it originated. It's a highly fragrant rose. And my grandmother used to say, if you're going to make rose petal jam, you have to go out in the early morning to get the roses while it still has the morning dew on it. So I don't know. I have not gone out at dawn to collect rose petals with dew on them to know if that affects jam making or not. But I'm just saying, that's what my grandmother said. If you're going to make rose petal jam, you got to go out and get it with the dew. I guess the dew does the good stuff. So there's a lot of different kinds of rose petal jam. I think there's like 5 different kinds. And it's actually rose petals. So that is the color from the roses. So it's very pink. And a lot of times, I'm just putting things up here out of the way. A lot of times people over in Turkey and Mediterranean, they mix their sweet and their salty. So they might put like some labneh or some feta cheese for the saltiness on their bread, and then put a dollop of the rose petal jam on top. The same with the sour cherry. I grew up with like taking my toast and smushing my little feta on it, and then taking my dollop of the rose petal jam and putting it on top and eating it before all of the goo just drips down my face and makes a mess. That was my favorite flavor, is sour cherry and feta cheese. But there's other kinds of jams other than sour cherry and rose petal that I wanted to introduce you to because they're pretty cool and they're different. I think the next one would be the bergamot marmalade or preserve. And bergamot is a citrus, but it has a very thick rind. So it, my aunt had a bergamot tree in the summer house, and we would go in there. They're big, and you're really kind of getting it for the rind. It's a little sour on the inside to eat. It's not as sweet as a regular navel orange. But what you do is you candy the rind. So as you can see, they roll them. So that is what they are. They're rolled pieces of candied rind. And so you actually would probably cut it. My dad would take one or two of the rolls and he would cut it with his knife and then cut a little piece of the kosher cheese and like have the little combination of the kosher, which is kind of like not a cheddar, but it's a hard cheese with a bit of the rind. So the bergamot is a little bit harder to eat on a toast. It's more of a bite because it's a full rind. Let's see, what else do we got? Oh, we have fig preserves. So I'm just going to show the fig preserves. This is more like a jam. So this is thicker. So this is one of my favorite ones. It's fig preserves with sesame seeds. So you get a little bit of a crunch and you get the texture between the seeds of the figs and the sesame seeds. You kind of get the sweet and salty all in one. Leilani, yes. Cheeses with jams. Like, that's the thing. People here think I'm a little cuckoo, but, you know, cheese and jam is the bomb. All right, what else do we got here? We have carrots. See, you can have vegetables for breakfast and they can be sweet. So this is a carrot preserve. So this is more of like a Middle Eastern kind of thing. I don't see this mainly in Turkey, but I do see it almost like if it was like a fruit roll-up, you know, so you cook the carrots down and then it's more like a lokum, like a Turkish delight as far as the sweet carrots. But as you can see, these are grated carrots and they're in a syrup and you would eat them for breakfast just like a jam. And then we have mulberry and we have pumpkin. Oh, I can't even tell you how many mulberries they must have used for this jar because, as you know, mulberries are teeny, teeny, tiny, and they are so hard to pick. I recently discovered I have a mulberry tree in my yard, and just picking them and, you know, taking all the stems off, and they're so tiny. I can imagine how much work the mulberry jam goes into. My aunt over in Turkey, she had a big, huge white mulberry tree. Now, I don't know about here as compared to over in Turkey for the purple ones because I'm used to the white ones over there on the trees, but they're super, super big. They're like almost 2 inches long by about, I don't know, a half an inch to an inch wide. They're ridiculously big, and that's what they're able to dry for dried mulberries. I don't know about their purple mulberries. I just know they are a pain in the butt to collect and to harvest, and you need so many for a jam. But that is a little bit more thicker because there's a little less pectin in it, and it's made up just like a jam. Also, we have pumpkin preserves. So they've kind of taken a traditional Turkish dessert and made it into a jam. And it's the pumpkin that they use. It's not a pie pumpkin and it's not a regular pumpkin. It's that like French ghost pumpkin that's a little squat and that has a little bit of a blue, you know, coloring to it. If you were to make the dessert, you pretty much cut it into wedges and then cover it with syrup. Hey there, Cindy. And so you would take the pumpkin and you would cover it with sugar and you'd let it sit for a couple hours to extract all the juices, and then you would cook it up and it would be this soft, pumpkin-y kind of syrupy dessert that you would sprinkle walnuts on, and some people sprinkle or drizzle tahini on it. Now they have made a pumpkin preserve out of it, so you can see the different chunks. Maybe they adopted it from Turkey. I have no idea, but this is the first time they just started carrying pumpkin preserve at Black Cherry just in the last few months. So this is new, and I think it's to replicate that pumpkin dessert from Turkey. Maybe it is. I don't know. All I know is one time I got the wrong pumpkin and tried to cook up the dessert and it was all stringy and fibrous, so you can't just get any pumpkin. I've also heard people use butternut squash because that makes it easy because you can just get them already cubed, or, you know, and do that pumpkin dessert with butternut squash and it works up just well. What else do we got? Oh, we got mango. We got mango and we got quince. So yes, we have a mango jam here. This is a little bit thinner than a regular jam, but this is made out of mangoes. So yes, they do have mangoes over in Turkey. They're bigger, so they don't have the small ones, they have bigger. And then they have quince. And this again is going to be more of a jam rather than the preserve because they kind of chop up the quince to make the jam. All right, let's see. Oh, walnuts. They have a couple of different kinds of green walnut preserve. So you're probably wondering, what does that look like? As you can see, well, maybe you can't see, but it's very viscous. Again, it's in a light syrup. And we were just talking about green walnuts before we started the show with Jalal, who is one of the owners. And I remember growing up, and before there were apartments across the street from my aunt, there was this big, huge walnut tree. And we would go down there as kids and we'd pick the walnuts and we'd crack them open and they'd be all green on the inside. And we'd peel and eat that white little, like, fresh walnut. And that's exactly what this is. So these are young walnuts that are super, super tender and super, super sweet. And what they've done is extracted them and with the, from the shell, and then put them in a light syrup. So I have yet to try these, but I'm sure they're just delicious. Let's see, what else do we got? I think we have gotten all of the jams or preserves. So I would definitely come down and try these. They're just a little bit different than you're used to. They're going to be a little more drippy, but that means that they're finger licking good. And so, it's all good. In the end, you can take your bread and dip them in there. But try them with like a cream cheese or a hard cheese or a feta cheese and try out that sweet and salty combination, because I'm telling you, that's like the best flavor in the whole world. All right, if you guys don't have any other questions or want to see any more jams, I am going to head out of here and I will talk to you next week. Bye now.